Walk with me.
I waited patiently for the I am. And he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of the horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise to our God. Many shall see it and fear, and shall trust in the I am. Blessed is the man that maketh the I am his trust, and respecteth not the proud, such as turn also or aside to lies. Many, O Yahuwah, my God, are thy wonderful works which thou hast done, and thy thoughts which are to uswards. They cannot be reckoned up in any order unto thee. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than it can be numbered. Sacrifice and offerings thou didst not desire. Mine ears hast thou opened. Burnt offerings and sin offerings thou hast not required. Then said I, Lo, I come. In the volume of the book it is written of me, I will delight to do thy will, O my God. Yea, thy law was within my heart. He's talking about the law here. I have preached righteousness in the great congregation, and lo, I have not refrained my lips, O Yahweh. Thou knowest I have not hid my righteousness within my heart, and I have declared thy faithfulness and thy salvation. And I have not concealed thy loving kindness and truth from the great congregation. Withhold not the tender mercies from me, O Yahuwah. Let not thy loving kindness and thy truth continually preserve me. For innumerable evils have compassed me about, and my iniquities have taken hold of me, so that I am not able to look up. They are more than the hairs of mine head, therefore my heart faileth me. Be pleased, O Tata Nzambe, to deliver me. O I am. Make haste to help me. Let them be ashamed and confounded together that seek after my soul to destroy it. Let them be driven backwards and put to shame that wish me evil. And let them be desolate for a reward of their shame that say to me, Ha ha. Let all those that seek thee rejoice and be glad in thee. Let such as love thy salvation say continually, the I am be magnified. But I am poor and needy, yet the I am thinketh upon me. Thou art my help, my deliverer. Make no tarrying, O my God. Yes, Psalms chapter 40. Deliver us and deliver me from the hands of the evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts. And let them not lead me astray, O my God. Establish thou me in my seat forever, that we go not astray from henceforth and forevermore. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, those of you on this platform and those of you on shared platforms. We thank God for you and those that have been with us from the beginning, and we thank the Most High for those of you that have come out thereafter and here and there's about, and we thank God for those of you that are just subscribing, and we thank God for those of you that are about to subscribe, calling those things that are not as though they are. Yes, we're reading from the book of Jasher. Yes, we're walking in the book of Jasher. You're walking with me, Mr. Clay. And we find out that the children of Jacob, they have overcame those in the city of Shechem. Now, Shechem is also mentioned again as you go into the book of Kings and Judges. Evil. It's just like there's an evil spirit there, according to the narrative of the Bible. And we ended with Jacob came to fetch the spoil, because the spoils belong to the victor. There's nothing fair in war. Somebody makes war with you, they're not going to be fair, not at all. Everything you have can be taken, regardless of what it is, whether they come for war with you, whether you provoked it or not. Envy, jealousy, strife, all manner of things that can come at you and war with you, whether you right or wrong. Whether you instigated it or not, war comes at you. But the fact is, you have to be ready, should I say, diplomatically, judiciously, lawfully, and militarily or militantly. Yes, some things you have to fight, whichever way you could fight, intellectually even, fighting, principally, fight. It's just a fight. People want to fight. There's nothing to fight. They want to fight. Many want to win. They'll join the winning side just to fight. But here's a fight that God won. And he used men. Yes, he did. This is spiritual warfare. It manifests itself in flesh. It manifests even to this day. Spiritual warfare manifests itself in flesh. You wonder why your neighbor hates you, or why your wife or your husband is acting a certain kind of way when you all have even made that vow. I mean, just the fight of things. Now I digress, and we're going back into we're in the 38th chapter of the book of Jasher, the 38th chapter of the book of Jasher and verse 18. And it reads, the sons of Jacob took the spoil of the city of Kazar, and the flocks and herds and the property, and they took all that could be captured and went away that day from the city. You have to realize that Jacob had purchased land there in Shechem that was his, that belonged to him and his children. He purchased the land. These people just were plain old evil. Apparently this was so to test Jacob. And we have to look at things in a spiritual context as we deal with men in the flesh and blood and wonder, why you hate me? Why are you doing this to me? It ain't about that. If he or she going to allow themselves to be ruled by the evil of this world, even what Abraham prayed, established me and my seed forever, that we go not astray from them because of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts and hearts of men. Why did they hate him? Because it started out with the sister Dinah. You were wrong. Lawfully, you were wrong. Principally, you were wrong. So we dealt with you in a diplomatic way to subdue you. In other words, if you want to join us and be a part of our children, or of the children of Jacob, and we be a part of you, then you got to get circumcised. And they waited until they got sore. And it was just like cow tipping. But either way, it says in verse 19, and on the next day the sons of Jacob went to Sarton, for they heard that the men of Sarton who had remained in the city were seeming to fight with them for having slain their king. And Sarton was a very high and fortified city, and it had deep and rampart surroundings in the city. Now, fighting and war and all these cities and stuff was nothing new to the children of Jacob. This is Israel before Egypt, mind you. There wasn't many, but this is the children of Jacob, or Israel before Egypt. And the pillar of the rampart was about 50 cubits, and its breadth of 40 cubits, and there was no place for a man to enter the city on account of the rampart. And the sons of Jacob saw the rampart of the city, and they sought an entrance in it, but could not find it. For the entrance to the city was at the rear, and every man that wished to come into the city came by that road and went around the whole city, and he afterwards entered the city. And the sons of Jacob, seeing that they could not find a way into the city, their anger was kindled greatly. And the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming to them, were greatly afraid of them, for they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Chaza, I believe that's the name, how you pronounce it. And verse 23, and the inhabitants of the city of Sarton could not go out toward the sons of Jacob after having assembled in the city to fight against them, lest they might thereby get into the city. But when they saw that they were coming toward them, they were greatly afraid of them. for they had heard of their strength and what they had done to Jasher. So the inhabitants of Sartan speedily took away the bridge of the road of the city from its place. Now, this was good. It was, in other words, it had to be a moat, some kind of way they moated this place. And they had the only way you can get in there was the bridge. You know, this was before you saw all these castles with the moats and all this other stuff. This was way before that. It let you know that the architecture, way what they call ancient times, is nothing new as far as keeping people out. Now, speedily took away the bridge of the road of the city from its place before the sons of Jacob came, they brought into it the city. They brought it into the city. And the sons of Jacob came and sought a way into the city, but could not find it. The inhabitants of the city went up to the top of the wall and saw, and behold, the sons of Jacob were seeking an entrance into the city. And the inhabitants of the city reproached the sons of Jacob from the top of the wall, and they cursed them. Cursing is wishing evil upon someone. In other words, it's not what you would call an unclean word. We could define as an unclean word, but it's wishing evil to happen or on the behalf of another person. And the sons of Jacob heard the reproaches, and they were greatly incensed. In other words, they was steaming, and their anger burned within them. And the sons of Jacob were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart. Now, how can the sons of Jacob, even a people that were bred in war, get down to the last part of where you get to the point where the Greeks have dominated them, and then next thing you know, here they are turning the other cheek? I can't make this up. This don't make no sense. I mean, the very seed, the very DNA of these men that not only were loving, but yet they knew when to fight and when not to fight. But yet they're told a certain thing in these letters, not even books, but letters. This is messed up. But either way, and the sons of Jacob were provoked at them, and they all rose and sprang over the rampart with the force of their strength, and through their might past the 40 cubit breadth of the rampart. It's a pretty good place. A cubit, usually about an arm's length, from the elbow to the hand, tip of the hand or something like that, or whoever's measure is by. But either way. And when they passed the rampart, they stood under the wall of the city, and they found all the gates of the city enclosed with iron doors. Here's another one. Yeah, iron was discovered then because the watchers have taught them. And all this stuff passed from all over the flood. I mean, from Noah all the way down to his sons, and then you still had fallen spirits that were still teaching mankind, and they still understood these dark arts and everything, even after the flood. Even the book of Jubilees and the book of Jasher mentioned the names of these devils that deceived mankind, really deceived mankind. And the number of people that were upon the wall were about 400 men. And when the sons of Jacob saw that the men of the city would not let them open the gates of the city, they sprang and ascended on the top of the wall, and Judah went up first to the east part of the city. Now, you could see where David got his bravery and his not even looking at the odds when he battled Goliath as a kid. He wasn't even looking at the odds. You see how even the spirit of his father Judah just filled his heart, or the spirit that was in his father Judah that filled his heart to say, "No, I trust God. How dare you even come against the armies of the Most High?" But today we've embraced, pretty much to say it, hate to say it, but we've embraced cowardice in that area instead of bravery. We've embraced it pretty much. We embrace being afraid of pain and death. We've embraced all these things. They influence us through their movies and all these different books and things about fear of death, fear of theft, fear of life, fear of defaming. Yes, fear on every hand. I digress, but let us go on. It says in chapter 30, verse 30. Should I say verse 31? And Gad and Asher went up after him and went to the west corner of the city, and Simeon and Levi to the north. In other words, these few in number, so to speak, surrounded the city, and Dan and Reuben to the south. And the men who were on the top of the wall, the inhabitants of the city, seeing that the sons of Jacob were coming up to them, and they all fled from the wall and descended into the city and concealed themselves in the midst of the city. And Issachar and Naphtali that remained under the wall approached and broke the gates, the doors, the gates of the city, and kindled a fire at the gates of the city, that the iron melted, and all the sons of Jacob came into the city, they and all their men, and they fought with the inhabitants of the city of Sartan, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and no man stood up before them. Now, you have to realize that this was not originally in the English language. No, it was not. It was not in the English language. So things can get misconstrued in translation, or either they can be intentionally misconstrued, to be misconstrued in the English language. You have to be careful, but I always say you watch and you listen and you read what is happening. The words should match. If they don't match, then there's a problem. And you have to understand these books as a whole, the whole narrative, from all the way from Revelation to even the book of Enoch, even Jasher. You have to try to get a big picture in order to really see what is going on, or else you're just going to fall into error some kind of way. You'll have part of it right, but the rest of it you'll be flung into something that's really irrelevant. Now in verse 34, and about 200 men from the city, and they all went and hid themselves in a certain tower in the city. And Judah pursued them to the tower, and he broke down the tower, which fell upon the men, and they all died. You got to realize there's supernatural beings, supernatural power working in this whole deal. And the sons of Jacob went up the road of the roof that the tower they saw, and behold, there was another strong high tower at a distance in the city, and the top of it reached to heaven. In other words, these people were no strangers as to the Tower of Babel, how to build a tower or castles or whatever they built. It's just you not going to see it by the narratives of those who are what we call the victors. Now, and the sons of Jacob went up the road of the roof and the tower, and they saw, and behold, there was another strong high tower at the distance in the city. And the top of it reached to heaven, and the sons of Jacob hastened and descended, and went with all their men to that tower, and found it filled with about 300 men, women and little ones. And the sons of Jacob smote a great smiting amongst those men in the tower, and they ran away and fled from them. Simeon and Levi pursued them, and when 12 mighty and valiant men came out to them from the place where they were concealed themselves. And those 12 men maintained a strong battle against Simeon and Levi, and Simeon and Levi could not prevail over them. And those valiant men broke the shields of Simeon and Levi, and one of them struck at Levi's head with his sword. And when Levi had hastily placed his hand to his head, for he was afraid of the sword, and the sword struck Levi's hand, and it wanted but a little to the hand of Levi being cut off. In other words, Levi got a little of his hand cut off. And Levi seized the sword of the valiant man in his hand and took it forcefully from the man, and with it struck at the head of the powerful man, and he severed his head. Verse 40, and 11 men approached to fight Levi. Now you have to realize Levi was one that was adamant about the standard of the Most High. They were appointed to be the ones who would minister even unto God. even as it is said here, when the firstborn of Jacob, even Leah, had went and defiled his father's bed, that the blessing that he should be blessed with had passed on to Judah and Levi. This is why some can't stand this translation or this narrative of the history of Israel or Jacob. Now, and for they saw that one of them was killed, and the sons of Jacob fought, but the sons of Jacob could not prevail over them. But those men were very powerful. Yes. I mean, everybody, you just don't look like you ain't going to be no weakling now. And some of the sons of Jacob, seeing that they could not prevail over them, Simeon gave a loud and tremendous shriek. And the 11 powerful men were stunned at the voice of Simeon's shrieking. Shrieking? Okay. And Judah at a distance knew the voice of Simeon shouting, and Naphtali and Judah ran with their shields to Simeon and Levi and found them fighting with those powerful men, unable to prevail over them as their shields were broken. Apparently these were either wooden shields or made of animal skins. And Naphtali saw that the shields of Simeon and Levi were broken, and he took 2 shields from his servants and brought them to Simeon and Levi. And Simeon and Levi and Judah on that day fought all 3 against the 11 mighty men until the time of sunset. But they could not prevail over them. No, they couldn't put them down. And this was told unto Jacob, and he was sorely grieved, and he prayed unto the I Am. And he and Naphtali and his sons went against these mighty men. And Jacob approached and drew his bow and came nigh unto the mighty men and slew 3 of their men, and with the bow, and the remaining 8 turned back, and behold, the war waged against them in the front and rear, and they were greatly afraid of their lives and could not stand before the sons of Jacob, and they fled from before them. You're talking about 100-year-old men. Jacob was over 100 years old, and he's still fighting wars. This let us know something about our health. You had Jacob, and then you had Moses, you had Caleb, 80-year-old man fighting the children of Canaan and prevailing just to get his lot for his tribe. And then we got in verse 47, he says, in their fight they met Dan and Asher coming toward them, and they suddenly fell upon them and fought with them and slew 2 of them. And Judah and his brothers pursued them and smote the remainder of them and slew them. Now you have to realize these people were fighting, but they had supernatural help. But the fact is they had to look at, we in ourselves are just weaklings. But even the Most High said, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit. Even Samson, when the spirit of the Most High came upon him, he was strong. He could slay and never get tired. And all the sons of Jacob returned and walked about the city, searching if they could find any men. They found about 20 young men in a cave in the city in Gad and Asher, and smote them all. And Dan and Naphtali lied upon the rest of the men who had fled and escaped from the second tower, and they smote them. Yeah, you can say that God was violent. He allowed all this violence. Well, we'll let you know when your ancestors was in the ships and all these different things happened to them, I guess you would turn the other cheek, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. Oh, you're just such a nice person. Forgive us. And you know what Jesus said, turn the other cheek and forgive your enemies, even though they did never ask. You told them their fault. They never asked forgiveness and never even displayed any type of remorse for what they have done. But yet still put the foot on your neck, and you still a fool. But either way, let us continue. And the sons of Jacob smote all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton. But the women and little ones they left in the city and did not slay them. Oh, that was so nice of them, wasn't it? And all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton were powerful men, and one of them would pursue 1,000, and 2 of them would not flee from 10,000 of the rest of the men. And the sons of Jacob slew all the inhabitants of the city of Sarton with the edge of the sword, and no man stood up against them. and they left the women in the city. So we know that one to pursue 1,000. This is a figure of speech, showing the might of the Most High and how He can give you an untiring spirit. He can quicken your flesh even to the point where it never tires, even in battle. And the sons of Jacob, in verse 51, they slew all the inhabitants of the city with the edge of the sword, and no man stood up against them. And when they left the women in the city, the sons of Jacob took all the spoils of the city and captured what they desired. Now, you could sit up there and have these women, some of these women talking about, oh, we women, we don't need this man or whatever, but God designed a man for a certain thing. The strength of a man, the endurance of a man. Yeah, some women have that, but very few when it's in contrast with a man. Nah, you can't do everything a man can do. You won't last long. You probably could do it for a little while, but you won't last long. God didn't design you like that from the beginning. Your DNA is not like that. No, you're just not like that. Stop fooling yourself, living in a delusional world. And its inhabitants, as they had done to Chaza, and its inhabitants, and they turned and went away. In other words, it was a battle. And God was in this battle. Even with Moses and the children of Israel, when they went to spy out this land after their captivity, after God sent them through something, and you had those men who came and knew of God's might and His power and how that He can lead you through an army, even legions of armies, and you'll never get tired. But then you had those who doubted the Most High and said, we cannot win this fight. No, but they were slain. And those of Caleb and Oshe, which some call Joshua, didn't doubt the Most High. But they did what they were told to do and what they said they would do. And this is the mark of a man. You can trust in each other, but you can't, as far as women are concerned, they just can't compare to a man at all. Not at all. And this is why we look at you as the weaker vessel. Because it's a man's world, and you call yourself going to battle. Your battle would be with men. Regardless of what you do, your battle would be with men. And you're going to lose every time. Only way Queen Nzinga even won any battle because she had men with her. You trying to talk about the women of the movie that was depicting a bunch of women warriors. Look at all the men they had with them. Yeah, they were good warriors. There was a special drove. They were special to the king. For what reason, I don't know. But the men were just as valiant in the fight. But they wanted to highlight the women in the movie. You have to realize this is what they're doing. They're highlighting you as sexual objects of fantasy. In a lot of these movies, when you know good and well, most of you, I'd say 99% of you, cannot even do those things. But I digress. Either way, until next time, we'll be in chapter 39, and I'm going to say peace.
Walk with me.